This short video will show how you can use Microsoft Visual Studio to write code that can be executed from within StarDraw Control and then use Visual Studio to debug that code from a StarDraw Control project. So first thing we'll do is we'll just, I've got Visual Studio 2010. I will actually go and create a new project, and I'll make sure I've chosen the .NET Framework 3.5. You could actually choose 3 or 2, but not 4, because Visual Studio StarDraw Control 2010 is a .NET 3.5 app. I'm going to choose class library, and I'm just going to say that this is my library. So we say OK, we'll just accept the defaults. That will create a DLL with a class in it called class 1. I don't like class 1, I'll go and call this my driver, and we'll get it to rename the class as well. And we'll just go and add in a public function that returns an int. We're going to call it add, and it's going to take an A and a B parameter, and it's just going to return A plus B. There we go. I'll just build that, make sure that works. Fantastic. Now what I want to do is, after it's been built, I want to go and copy this DLL to where StarDraw Control project is actually going to run from. So I'm going to use the target dir, which is going to point to the folder where the DLL has been compiled to. I'll insert that, but what I'll do is I'll copy, in quotes, my library.dll to, in quotes, where my document StarDraw Control 2010 is. So I'll just copy this address and we'll paste it in there. So a copy from the target directory, my library DLL, to my document StarDraw Control 2010. Fantastic. And if we build that again, we'll now see that there is my library that's been copied over there. Fantastic. So now let's try and call this from within StarDraw Control. Let's start a brand new project, and we'll go and call this project 1, just leave it as the default. And we'll go and call this DLL from a piece of script. So we'll just go and add a script here onto the form, and I'll go and edit it. Let's remove all the comments that we don't need, and let us go and add a reference to that DLL that we've written. So if we go to my documents, Control 2010, my library, we can even then add in a using my library statement, so that we can then have, as normal, a controllable public function that returns an int, and we'll say execute function. And what that will do is go and call create a my driver. Go and call it driver, and it's a new my driver class, and we'll return driver.add, and let's go and put in 12 and 13 as the 2 values. Great. So there's a bit of script on a form that has a reference to my library, and is going to call it the add function with 2 values, and it's called execute function, and it's controllable. Fantastic. Now we need to go and actually call that code. Let's go and add a button on the form, and we'll also go and add in a label as well. And when we click on the button, we want to go and add an action that's going to set label 1 text to come from the script execute function. Great. Let's just go and run the project and see if that actually works. And we can see a click on button 1 and it updates to 25. That's great. We'll even compile the project, so it's generated a standalone executable, which if I come over to my documents there, we can see it. I'm going to double click on it to run it. Click on button 1 and it executes. Great. So now I want to debug this from within Visual Studio. Well, in the debug tab for the project settings, we can actually say I want to start an external program, and we can come into StarDraw Control 2010 and choose the project 1. Fantastic. And just to prove it, I'm going to set a breakpoint right here so that when the code is executed, Visual Studio will stop right at that line of code. Okay, so it's just launched it, and we go and click on button 1, and sure enough, we've hit our breakpoint within inside Visual Studio, and you can actually see the local variables 12 and 13. You can do hovering and see that that's 12 and that's 13. If we go and change that to say 20, we can see it updating here. We could even see a stack backtrace. I can then go and hit run, and sure enough, it's now changed to 32. If I go and remove the breakpoint and go and click on the button again, it's now back to 25 because we haven't actually modified it. So we've been able to use Visual Studio to create a DLL in C#, could have been actually any .NET language, and reference it within StarDraw Control, within a project, from within a script, call that script from a form within StarDraw Control, and then actually use Visual Studio to debug it and diagnose any features and any fixes. So, thank you very much.